Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Career Invincibility Show. I am super excited about our guest today, Linda Low Peck. She is a distinguished and leading expert in business development, marketing, and management, and the founder of the award-winning SMARTSTART programs. She's served since 1982 as a consultant to the world's most successful companies, as an educator, mentor, and multiple successful entrepreneurs and esteemed thought leaders. We are so excited to have her here. She helps digital business owners grow their confidence, their professional expertise, reputation, recognition, and income by eliminating the obstacles that get in the way of success and maximizing the one thing we need to focus on now more than ever, which is cash flow. And one of the things that I really like to share here is I get to bring on the most amazing, successful people like yourself, Linda. And at the same time, people will see someone like you or hear about someone like you or listen to you and say, great about you, you're so impressive, but what I could never get there. And I know that you've got a great story, and it was not a straight line. So let us welcome Linda Low Peck and have her share a bit about her pathway to invincibility. Welcome, Linda.
Oh, thank you for that lovely introduction, Christina. It's very exciting to be here, actually. The first thing that I want to say, based on what you had just said to our listeners, is that success is never a straight line exercise, and anyone is capable of it if they're prepared to do the work.
Yes. So tell us a bit about your journey. What did you have to get through to be the success that you are today?
I started out in the late 60s and early 70s as a computer scientist. And I was originally on the traditional C-suite track at a time when the idea of women in the boardroom and leading Fortune 500 companies just wasn't on the radar. And for that very reason, I decided that I had to do it. But one of the things that happened in the first 10 years of my traditional management career, which was in finance and banking, it was frustrating because the people that I worked with had such pedestrian ideas about what was possible and how long it might take to achieve specific things. I always had big ideas and big plans. And I was prepared to put my reputation on the line to make them happen. So after the first 10 years, I started chafing a bit at the restrictions and constraints that were imposed for no good reason that I could see. And it so happened that in the early 80s, we had a very severe economic recession. And I had wanted to leave and start up my own thing. So I had already brought in my successor to the company that I was intending to leave. And when it came down to it, I had created all kinds of interesting proposals to our executive leadership team to maintain the jobs of the people who worked in my department. And that worked for 2 or 3 years. And every time I would present my operating budget, I was able to get approval. But then in 1982, they at first approved what I had said. I had been financing the salaries of my department by bringing in all my speaking revenues and putting them into our operating budget. And so that year I came up with a proposal for how much money I was going to bring in. They approved it, but then they got cold feet because by then the economy was tanking severely. They didn't think it would be possible for me to make as much money and bring it to them as I said I would. And so I decided that I would be the one to leave in order to make sure that the successor I had brought in did not lose her job because of the environment and things that were going on. So all I did was I then just left and I did all of the things that I said I was going to do. And in 9 months' time at fiscal year end, I had actually brought back about 160 or 65% of what I had said that I would bring in. And that just goes to prove that you can start a successful business in any economic situation that you might be facing. And in fact, a recession is one of the best times for new opportunities to open up. So once I made it through that first year, there was just no reason to ever go back. And so since that time, I've been a solo entrepreneur and living life on my own terms and having a really good time doing only the things that I want to do and working only with the clients that I want to help. And it's been a really wonderful ride. So things went along quite well for the first 20 years. And then at the turn of the century, I decided that it would be time to give back. And that's why I created the SMARTSTART program, which I also launched at the time of the giant recession. So I had 3 different businesses launched in recessions, and every single one did well. And of course, now with the global pause happening and all of the unusual circumstances we're facing, I'm still out there trying to get people to understand this is not the end of the road for you. You can do better now than you've ever done before if you have a viable business idea and are willing to do the work to develop it and bring it to market.
Well, and I know that this was something you could do, plop down into any new environment and create, but you had to overcome some major setbacks beyond just economic and global, something that affects all of us. You've had to go even farther out and come back from. And can you talk a bit about that?
Oh, sure. So I came up with the idea for SMARTSTART at the turn of the century, like I said, and I spent about 5 years researching and developing it. And of course, one of the first things that you need to do in order to ensure a successful launch of anything is you need to build your strategic relationships first. So the mid years were spent doing that. That took a couple of years. And then I launched SMARTSTART in, was October 3rd, 2008. And in that first year, because of all of the advanced work and thinking that had been done, it was incredibly successful, far beyond my wildest dreams. I had no idea how big it had grown or how much work had really been done, which actually turned out to be $5.7 million, because I was just focused on making this dream happen that I had spent so much time thinking about. And I wanted to do a really great job for our clients, of course, too. Now then, a year later, actually a year and 2 days later, on October 5th, 2009, an impaired driver crossed the center line of the highway and drove through my windshield. And that accident left me with catastrophic brain and spinal cord injuries. And that was a very, very challenging time, but it did not mean the end of SMARTSTART or my business, because even though I could not do anything for myself, I couldn't speak, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't do anything really for a long time, the business kept on going without me. I had designed it originally to function without me. And my ultimate exit strategy was going to be including my not being a part of the business. And we had contingency plans and everything that you need to have in place for that to happen. So the business continued to roll on without me. The only service that could not be provided temporarily, and I didn't know how long this would take, was the actual one-on-one collaborative coaching and consulting that I did with the clients in the program. And So we had to wait until I finished rehab, which I ended up doing 18 different rehabs, and it took 8 years to be able to return to independent living. Meanwhile, the business was still chugging away without me. And at the time of the accident, I spoke 5 human languages and 10 computer languages, but I only relearned English. And even after returning to independent living, that was in 2014, it still took another 3 years until I had recovered sufficiently to be able to create new programs for SmartStart. But the fantastic advantage that I had as a direct result of this catastrophic brain injury was once I had rewired my brain and had access to the things that I knew at the time of the accident and was ready to be able to communicate them again to our client base and the students in the Smart Start program, I was approaching it from the state of a beginner's mind. And this is, of course, what has helped me be able to make the program even better than it was at the time of the accident, because many of the clients coming into our program are beginners in business. They don't necessarily have a significant knowledge or practical experience with strategic marketing. They don't necessarily understand all of the 12 essential core competencies that are needed for a business to succeed. But they do have ideas and they do believe in those ideas. And so, what we do now is we help them take the ideas, bring them to market, put together campaigns that will help them sell their ideas to their target ideal clients, and do it in a way that is fun for them as well as being educational and fun for me, because I get to see the magic happen in the moment as I'm teaching them what they need to learn. And there was a time, well, actually, for the 8 years I was in rehab, I did not know if I would ever be able to do that work again. And it was very, very painful for me to have that realization. But
So what
you
was
have,
it? What was the thing that you felt in those times? Because, it sounds like almost a straight line, right? The way you describe it, because we're looking back. But in those moments, which we all face, some people are facing it right now in this global pandemic. I faced it in surviving 2 Category 5 hurricanes in 2 weeks that destroyed my home and my community. What are the things that you used, that you told yourself, or that helped you get through those dark hours of the night?
there were many, many dark hours because to have everything that you were and had going for you suddenly taken away from you through no fault of your own requires a huge adjustment. And I was used to being a very independent person. Now I couldn't do a damn thing for myself. I didn't know if I would be able to recover. The injury was very, very serious, brainstem injury, and the deep brainstem is what controls every bloody function of your body. So things were pretty bad for a long, long time. And I I think you have to find something that you're hanging on to as your reason to keep going. And I loved my work so much that I just couldn't believe that it was all over, and I couldn't allow it to be over because um, it just